So this is going to be an intro video for the hand building group A students. I'm going to show you some quick tools on what you're going to need on Tuesday and some quick ways of how to pinch and make your spheres. So we're going to start by making 3 spheres of varying sizes. I'm going to show you how to do a quick small one, and then I'll show you a more detailed way of making something larger, larger than say your fist put together. That's the first one that we're going to do. So after you've gotten your clay, I suggest using some of the plastic. This is a 5 mil plastic that I have in the syllabus that I spoke to you guys about. This is really cheap stuff and it helps keep your clay moist. I had it wrapped in this for 2 days and it's just like brand new out of the container. So this stuff works really well. I suggest double wrapping, wrapping once, then wrapping twice, setting aside. So once you got your clay, make sure it's kind of wrapped up to the side. Some quick tools that you're gonna probably wanna have. These are a variety of tools that I use personally. You're definitely gonna wanna have a sponge, a cutting wire, and a lot of these tools will come in your kit. And if they don't come in your kit and you want to buy them separately, you can buy them from the Potter's Guild, or you can buy them online. Some basic trimming tools. These for hand building will be used for refining and getting rid of bumps and scrapes and things like that, or making carvings and designs on the surface. But mostly these are used for trimming for the wheel, but they can also be used for hand building as well. You're definitely going to need a needle tool. This is a wooden needle tool, but there's plastic ones, there's metal ones, but they all come with basically a needle at the end, or you can even use just a nail, works the same sometimes. The ones with the handles are nicer. Your basic stick tool, it's a wooden stick. It has this little flared, kind of cupped end, rounded end, and then a pointed end. This can be used for a numerous amount of things. And then I have a selection of different sizes and shapes of metal ribs. These are called ribs. So I have this more kind of kidney shape one, a smaller tapered kidney shape, you can see that. A longer tapered one, just like the smaller one, but it's more longer. It has this nice flat edge here. And then your standard one with a nice point here and a nice point here. These points are really good for getting straight lines and things like that around pots or scraping in your hand building. Then there's rubber ribs. There's a variety of different colors usually, and these mud tool ribs correlate to stiffness. So this green is kind of pliable, but it's pretty stiff. This red one is super pliable and very soft, so you can see that. And these are really good. They last a very long time. They're a little pricey, but they're worth purchasing. And then you have wooden ribs too. I'm not a big fan of wooden ribs. I use the metal or the rubber ones, but I know a lot of people really like these. And they come in a variety of shapes. Like this is more of a square one. And this is more of that standard one, like the metal one. They come in all sizes and shapes. So these are the basic tools. You're also gonna need a bucket. Just a small bucket, and then this just has water in it. And I usually take my sponge and I'll just kind of have that floating in the bucket. And again, always have your apron on. Like you see, I have my apron on. And so my apron has these nice leg sleeves that I can use to wipe my hands, stuff like that. But you always want to make sure you have your apron on as well. So these are your basic tools that you'll need. A lot of these will be good for hand building and wheel throwing. This is your basic set of tools. Okay, so you're gonna want to have some sort of working surface, a piece of board like this. These can be found in the classroom. This one's quite large. You don't need something this size, but something to work on off your table, or you can work on the table and then have this to set it on. And it's easy to help transport things. So I'm just gonna work off of this for now. So I'm going to show you guys how to make a basic sphere out of 2 pinch pots. So what you're going to do is you're going to get your clay out, and I usually start by making a little bit of a ball that fits in my fist, where my fist can kind of wrap all the way around it. You see that? Okay, and then you're going to want to really get that into a sphere. Make sure your clay is wrapped up when you're not using it so it doesn't dry out. And then you're going to take this you're gonna take your thumb and you're gonna stick your thumb into it like that. And then you're just gonna start pinching around just like that. And you see I have that circle in there. I have about the same thickness on this wall here as I do on the bottom here. And I can feel that by putting my thumb on the bottom and my middle finger right there. I can feel how thick that is. And what you're gonna wanna do is you're just gonna go around slowly pinching. What I'm doing is I'm doing the kind of a pinching motion like this, little bit by little bit, and you're gonna pinch that out. So take your time on the first couple of these and really feel that wall thickness, okay? And what I'm gonna do is I'm creating a half sphere. So I can even set that on here and then pinch it and turn it. Pinch and turn. And then that creates a kind of a square bottom, and then you're gonna wanna pinch that again. So just keep doing that. And so see how this is kind of cupped? I'm wanting to bring this out more because I want to create a half sphere. So I'm gonna pinch this out more. Nice surface in the end. If you do it very steady and slow, it creates a nice undulating surface, or you can use the rib and sponge or a shear form tool, which I'll show you later, to get that even. So now I have my first half sphere, as you can see. So you're gonna set that down and you're gonna cover that in plastic, and then you're gonna make a second one. You're gonna wanna make sure that you have two of them. You wanna make sure that they're about the same size. You can kind of go like that and see that they're pretty much the same size there. Little differences on one and the other is okay. And you see the wall thickness is very similar. That is key. You don't want one really thin and one really thick. Then when we put them together, it's gonna cause some issues. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take either your needle tool, your wooden stick, or I have something like this, which I made out of polymer clay, which you guys can look online. There's videos on how to make these. It's just polymer clay, that oven bake clay. And you make a little nub, a little square piece, and you put these little small nails in there. And what that does is, as you can see there, they are these little nails, and that is nice for scoring. Because now we're gonna do something called slipping and scoring, okay? And this is very important whenever you're putting two pieces of clay together, especially if one is a little stiffer than the other. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go around, we are going to score by taking that tool and making these little indentions, as you can see there. You can also take your needle tool, make little score marks, or you can take your stick tool and make little score marks. Do the top surface, go around, score that top surface. And you kind of want to go in two different directions. You want to kind of cross hatch it. Kind of like in drawing where you do cross hatching, you go one way and then you go the other way. That's very important here as well. And then I'm also going to do the outside of this one. And you'll see why here in a second, because we're kind of going to lace these together a little bit. So I'm just going to go around quickly. Doesn't have to be pretty. So now I have one that's on this top and inside, one that is on the top and outside. And what you're going to do is you're going to take a brush or something like that, or a sponge, and you dip it in your water, and you're going to want to put some water on that. Just brushing water on it. Get it wet. And then this is technically the slip part of it. So we scored it, now we're slipping it, because by doing this, we're creating a kind of a slurry on the surface. You can also create slip by taking dried powdered clay and mixing it in with water, and you can have a little Tupperware container on the side where you have like an actual slip slurry. And I'll make a whole nother video on how to do that later. So now that we have that, we're gonna take the one that is scored on the outside, and we're gonna lace it in and kind of work that in. You can kind of bend that together so that it is on the inside. And if need be, just kind of squish it. And you see how it malformed its shape, but that's fine. We can fix that here in a second. So now that one is just inside, I would say about 1/8 of an inch inside, now you're gonna take your finger and you're gonna move that line up. So you're gonna move that clay from the outside one to the inside, being very gentle, not to push too hard. And you're gonna do that. And what that does is that now we have a balloon basically. Now this has a bunch of air trapped into it, which is gonna help us when we want to refine this form. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take one of our ribs. And I like to use a metal rib for this. You can use whatever rib you wish, but then we're just going to smooth that out and scrape it both directions, going one way, then the other. Just like you did the slipping, going one direction. Oh, see, then I just gouged it, that's okay. Then you go the other, see now it's almost gone. We can get rid of that. Go one way, then the other. And what we wanna do is we wanna smooth out that seam from when we connected the two. So what we're gonna do is just do this all the way around. Okay, now that you've got it pretty much smoothed out, you can see it's still a little rough in spots, but it's pretty much smoothed out. And you can see that that is getting really close to a nice sphere. Next is having like a little wooden panel or a piece of scrap wood or something like that. A wooden kitchen spoon works really well, but something flat like this is really nice. And what we're gonna do is gently, since this has air trapped in it, we're just gonna gently pat this into shape. And I'm just gonna hold it in my hand and I'm just gonna go around and I'm going to try to get that shape more precise. So, and then you're gonna have that nice and round. So now this is the thing, is now we're gonna wanna set this down, but now when I set this down, it's gonna create a divot. It's gonna create a flat spot. So to prevent that, when you're ready, you're gonna take some more clay out of your bag, set your orb sphere to the side, and then you're gonna roll it between your fingers and roll it around the table like this. You're gonna create something called a coil. This is what we're gonna be doing on the second project quite a bit, is making these coils. So getting practice now is gonna be very helpful for later. So now I have like this little coil. It's probably about 6-7 inches in width. Doesn't really matter the exact length. You just wanna then curve it on itself and kind of pinch it together. And what you're creating is a donut. And we want that donut to be about the size, so when we take this, I'm gonna fix that little flat spot. You're gonna put that on the ground, and then you're gonna kind of pinch that bevel. So you want that, instead of round like that on the inside, you want it to be beveled like that. So I'm gonna pinch that down. So it's kind of almost a flattened, tapered donut. And then that's gonna create a nice little stand for our sphere to set in. So when it's drying and when it's setting on the shelf, it doesn't become flat due to gravity. So once you have that done, then this is the most important part of creating a hollowed form, like a sphere, is you're gonna wanna take your needle tool, because we have all this air trapped inside. And what happens when the clay shrinks, the air expands against it. There's nowhere for that air to go, so that can cause cracking, it can cause movement in the piece, and also if that air is trapped in there, when we go to fire it, it will explode. That air will expand rapidly and it have nowhere to go, and it will explode the piece, destroying your piece and possibly harming and destroying another of your students' pieces, one of your peers' pieces in the process. We don't want to do that. So we're going to take our needle tool and we're just going to go boop, and we're going to poke a hole in that. And I kind of just go up and down a little bit like that, make sure it goes all the way through. And now, with that hole there, that air has some place to go out when that shrinks down. So once that starts shrinking and it creates air pressure, that air has a place to escape, and it won't explode, it won't crack, and you're ready to go to the next one. So when you're done with that, you want to take your 5mm plastic and you want to drape it around your board. And you take that, and what I like to do is, because you want to keep these, you want it to slowly dry, but you want to keep it from over drying, because we're going to need to make a bunch of these, and then we're going to piece them together later. So what I do is I take my board. This is why it's nice to have a bigger board, because you can have multiple of these on your board. I take my plastic and I'll lift this up and I'll just tuck it all in underneath, all around the sides, tuck it underneath, and then you can then set that on your shelf, and it's ready and it's safe. And then when you're done with your next one, you can open one side, put your next one in, and then wrap it, tuck it underneath, and it will stay wet.